Hello, my fellow Hirelings of House Telvanni. I'm Neloth, and today I want to introduce to you my Windwalker build, a Redguard warrior that uses a combination of fast-action swordplay and wind magic that both enhances the speed of the Windwalker and flings enemies 20 feet in the air. Before I begin, let me state as always that there are timestamps down below to make navigating the video much easier, and also note that this character should be seen as a template and you should feel free to make any changes that you wish. Now, let us learn about the Windwalker. The Windwalker was born in Hammerfell and grew up in the city of Sentinel. His father was a blacksmith and his mother was an Alik'ir wizard. Most of the denizens in Sentinel could never understand how such a matrimony could hold between a blacksmith and a wizard, but their marriage was strong and were also able to become very wealthy from selling enchanted weapons and armor. When the Windwalker was brought into the world, his family was already well respected by the forebears, with his mother being one of the few court wizards to exist in Hammerfell due to her knowledge of enchantments and magical creatures. The Windwalker spent most of his childhood learning to forge weapons from his father and learning to read from his mother. While he did enjoy hammering nails and reading books such as Night Falls on Sentinel, his mind turned to one thing most children think about: fighting. He dreamed of being a powerful Ansei warrior, battling hordes of goblins like the heroes of old. When the Windwalker turned 12, he begged his parents to teach him to fight. His father was more than happy to teach him the ways of the sword, but his mother was apprehensive about teaching him to fight and refused to teach him any kind of magic. The Windwalker didn't understand why his mother was against teaching him to fight, especially considering his mother was very powerful in destruction magic, and exceptionally powerful when it came to the rare wind magic. But after a year of asking, he stopped caring and focused his attention solely on the blade. During this time, the entirety of the Empire was in a war with the Aldmeri Dominion called the Great War. The casualties of the war had gotten so bad that the Imperial army started recruiting from the citizenry outside of Cyrodiil, including Hammerfell, and the Windwalker's father was one of the many who enlisted in the war. The Windwalker begged to go with his father to fight alongside him, but his father refused, stating that he was far too young to go to war. After saying his goodbyes, he left. The Windwalker was left at home with his mother, who at this point the Windwalker had grown absent from. His mother was always very busy with her courtly affairs, but with the Great War raging on, she was far busier than usual. For 2 years, the Windwalker worked at his father's forge and practiced the way of the blade, even spending money on training at the local fighters guild. And then, one fateful night, a courier came to the door of the Windwalker's house and presented him and his mother with news of his father's death. The Imperial city was besieged by the Thalmor, and in an effort to flee the city, Emperor Titus Mede II had the 8th Legion cover the rest of the army's escape, and the 8th Legion was slaughtered to the last man, including the Windwalker's father. This news angered the young Windwalker and devastated his mother. The Windwalker truly believed that his father had been sacrificed by the Emperor just so he could flee a battle like a coward. The Windwalker's mother was so heartbroken that she didn't speak to anyone for an entire year. not until the Imperial City was retaken by the Empire and the Windwalker's father's body was sent back to the family to be buried. At that time, the Great War had finally ended, and the White Gold Concordat was signed, but something happened that changed the course of Hammerfell and the Windwalker's life forever. In the terms of the Concordat, it stated that large amounts of Hammerfell would be given to the Aldmeri Dominion. This angered almost every Redguard, and immediately militias started to form in every town and city dedicated to fighting back against the Thalmor, and the Windwalker decided to join out of both anger and to honor his father's death. Before the Windwalker could leave to join the fight, his mother approached him, her face filled with both sorrow but also purpose. She said to him, "My son, I had never taught you how to fight with magic, out of fear that you would be slain on a distant battlefield or you would accidentally harm yourself or others. But with your father gone and war at our doorstep, I know now that I must teach you how to fight, just like your father did, and I will join you in this war we have found ourselves in." And so the Windwalker and his mother joined up with the rest of the armies in Sentinel and went to war against the Aldmeri Dominion. The Windwalker was only 16 years old. For 5 years, the Windwalker fought against the Thalmor alongside his brothers in arms. His mother taught him how to wield destruction magic and philosophy of wind magic. The Windwalker was not as gifted in magic as he was with a sword, but he felt that his mother's teachings had made him faster with a blade than most of his fellow comrades. Sadly, in one battle, a company of battle mages had infiltrated the city of Tanith and burned most of the city, hurling fireballs at anyone that moved. The Windwalker's mother was one such person who was critically injured in the fight. She survived her injuries, but her hands and her eyesight were permanently damaged, and she could no longer fight in the war or effectively teach her son how to truly use wind magic. The best that the Windwalker could do was study her mother's philosophies and keep them to his heart. After 5 years, the war against the Thalmor was over with the Second Treaty of Stros Makai. The Windwalker's family had lost much of its influence ever since his father left for war, but the Windwalker and his mother were content to have a smaller home just outside of Sentinel. However, when the Windwalker went to war, he was just a boy, and now he was a fully grown man of 21 years. He knew nothing in life except fighting, and so, in order to earn enough coin to keep his mother safe and comfortable, he became a mercenary, offering his combat prowess for coin. For the next 15 years, he fought protecting rich nobles or defending villages that pooled their money to hire him. The Windwalker would regularly visit his mother and tell stories of his adventures and read books to her. However, on one of his visits back to see his mother, he noticed that her health had taken a rapid decline, and so he spent the next few months with her until she peacefully passed away. The Windwalker was naturally saddened at the loss of his mother and how she was never truly able to finish his training, but he was also content that he was able to honor the memory of both his mother and father. After burying his mother next to his father, he decided to leave Hammerfell permanently, feeling that there was nothing else keeping him in his homeland, and so he left. For the next 5 years, he made his way as a wandering mercenary, traveling through High Rock and Cyrodiil, and he even attempted to make his way to the northern lands of Skyrim through the Pale Pass, until he was captured by a group of Imperials, and you know the rest. And now for the role-playing. When the Windwalker is on the way to Helgen, he will feel frustration, but also content. He is frustrated at how the Empire got his father killed, and will now kill him, but he is also content, knowing that in his life he honored both his family and his country. As the Windwalker walks up to the chopping block, he will close his eyes and think on the good memories that he's had in his life, but then a dragon attacks and destroys everything. When the Windwalker escapes Helgen, he will naturally escape with Ralof. The Empire had already wronged him one too many times, and he has no desire to escape with his captors. When you exit Helgen and escape into the beautiful land of Skyrim, you will want to quickly get through the main quest until you meet the Greybeards. This is so the Windwalker can have access to the shouts needed for this build as quickly as possible. Because the Windwalker had been a mercenary for 15 years, he can reasonably join every faction in the game. The companions will be perfect, as they will suit the Windwalker's warrior and mercenary playstyle. The College of Winterhold is great, as we will have access to Feralda, who can teach the Windwalker in destruction magic so we can quickly rise through the destruction tree. The Thieves Guild can be joined as it will suit the speed and nimbleness of the Windwalker, even if he isn't a master of stealth. And the Dark Brotherhood can even be joined as this faction offers loads of money, which may entice the Windwalker. And when assassinating targets, the Windwalker will believe that his targets are not as innocent as they may seem. And if you want to take the Windwalker down a darker route, you can view assassinating the Emperor as getting revenge for your father's death. However, you may want to avoid going too far, like killing Nilsene Shattershield and innocent bystanders. For the Civil War factions, the Windwalker will be joining the Stormcloaks. After the Empire abandoned both his father and his nation, the Windwalker will fall into the ideals of the Stormcloaks, and believe that Skyrim should be free from the Empire just like Hammerfell is. The Dragonborn DLC will be an important part of this build as it includes the Whirlwind Cloak spell, which is essential to the aesthetic of this build. While you don't have to do the questline in Solstheim right away, you will want to travel to Tel Mithryn and visit the sexy Master Neloth at around level 15. If you help Neloth with some experiments, finding a new steward, and purifying his tower, you will gain access to a quest where Neloth will have you look for a book called Wind and Sand. Once you complete this quest, you will be able to buy the Whirlwind Cloak spell from Talvis. Getting this book can also be even more important if you want to roleplay that the author of the book, Afa Saryat, is actually the beloved mother of the Windwalker, and now he has finally completed his training of wind magic and truly honored his mother. Afterwards, you will definitely want to help the Skull against Miraak and cleanse the stones in Solstheim, especially the Wind Stone. It should be obvious as to why. If you still want more adventure, the Dawnguard DLC can aid you with that as you side with the Dawnguard against the vampires. Also, I would strongly recommend doing the In My Time of Need quest, which focuses on the Redguards, and you should definitely side with Kamatu. The fishing quest that you get for free with the special edition of Skyrim should also be played to appreciate nature and to also get a few important items that I will speak on later. Now, the Windwalker is a neutral character. He may do good deeds and help others, but if he is faced with a job that involves stealing or murder, he may take the job if the money is good. However, he isn't going to be murdering people that just look at him funny. This isn't the Soul Reaper we're talking about here. And now for the race, stats, and standing stone. The Windwalker will be a Redguard. No two ways about it. Everything from the backstory, roleplaying, and aesthetic of this build screams Redguard. While the Windwalker in this video is portrayed as a man, this build can easily be either gender, both male or female. For the stats, we will first want to invest 5 levels into Magicka in order to get the Whirlwind Cloak spell. With the exception of shouts, no other magic will be used, so we only want enough Magicka to cast this one spell. Other than that, you will want to invest evenly into both health and stamina. When you get further into the game and acquire everything you need for this build, you will basically become untouchable, so having lots of health won't be that essential. What will be essential is stamina for power attacks and shield bashes. So possibly when you reach around level 30, you may want to start leaning more into stamina with 1 in health and 2 in stamina. For the Standing Stone, you will want to acquire the Atronach Stone for 2 very important reasons. The first is that having plus 50 Magicka points will be very helpful for casting Whirlwind Cloak without having to invest too many levels into Magicka. And second is that the plus 50% absorption to Magicka is absolutely dandy for any kind of warrior that is going against mages. Moving on to the skills and perks. The Windwalker will be utilizing the skills One-Handed, Block, Destruction, Light Armor, Sneak, and Smithing. I will now go over what perks I would recommend getting at around level 40 and explain my reasonings for some, but others won't require much explanation. If you plan to go over level 40, I would recommend investing in either Alchemy or Enchanting. For One-Handed, you will want to get all levels in Armsman, Critical Charge, Savage Strike, Paralyzing Strike, and all levels of Bladesman. This will allow the Windwalker to show off his mastery of the sword, and also quickly charge into a fight inflicting bonus damage with Critical Charge. You may wonder why I haven't selected the Dual Flurry perk, but I will explain that in the next skill. For Block, you will want to get 3 levels in Shield Wall, Quick Reflexes, Deflect Arrows, Elemental Protection, Block Runner, and Shield Charge. The reason why I went for Block instead of the Dual Flurry perks is because of one very good reason: Quick Reflexes. Quick Reflexes is such an amazing skill that will slow down time anytime someone swings with a power attack. This will fit the Windwalker very well, as it will showcase his reaction time and speed and allowing him to parry or sidestep any blow. For Destruction, you will want to get Novice Destruction up to Adept Destruction. The only reason Destruction is invested into at all is to half the Magicka cost of the thematic spell of this build, the Whirlwind Cloak. The Windwalker won't really be using Destruction all that much, so further investment is not needed. In Light Armor, you will want to get all 5 levels in Agile Defender, Custom Fit, Unhindered, and Windwalker. Leveling up in Light Armor will actually prove to be difficult once the Quick Reflexes perk is unlocked and you acquire all other powers and items. This is because you will become practically untouchable. So I would recommend using trainers to level up in Light Armor, but only after you use Feralda or Woundfirth the Unliving to level Destruction up to level 50. This skill tree is also great as Light Armor will allow for much faster movements, especially with Unhindered. And Windwalker is literally the name of the build, so getting that perk is just essential. For Sneak, you will want to get 3 levels in Stealth and then get Backstab. Sneak will be useful for getting the drop on a group of enemies, and will also help in doing the Thieves Guild and Dark Brotherhood quests, while minimizing detection and any potential collateral damage. For Smithing, you will be taking Steel Smithing and then up to Advanced Armors on the left. On the right side, you will want to go all the way up to Ebony Smithing. You will also want to get Arcane Smithing as well. This skill will be essential because Advanced Armors will be used for upgrading the armor of this build, and Ebony Smithing will be used to upgrade the Ebony Scimitar that the Windwalker uses. And now for the weapons and armor. For weapons, early in the game you will basically use any weapons at your disposal. Towards the mid-game though, you will want to complete the Ghost of the Tribunal Creation Club mod while doing Neloth's quests, which will give you access to the powerful Ebony Scimitar. Remember to not enchant this blade, as one of the shouts we will be using is the Elemental Fury shout, which sadly will not work with any enchanted weapons. The Remnant Scimitar is also a good weapon to use and is found in the Redguard Elite Armaments Creation Club mod, which also includes the armor we will be using for this build. The Windshear Sword found on the Kataraya when assassinating the Emperor is also useful to have, but keep in mind that it is an enchanted weapon. If you do not have the Anniversary Edition to Skyrim, you may want to invest more into smithing and forge yourself a powerful dragonbone sword, or just use smithing potions and sharpen up a regular scimitar as much as you can. For the shield, we will be using the Remnant Shield, not only because it matches the armor that we will be using, but it is also the most beautiful shield I have ever seen in Skyrim and in general. For armor, we will be using the full set of Enchanted Remnant Agent armor, excluding the helmet. This armor is also acquired in the Redguard Elite's Armaments Creation Club mod. The enchantments that are on the armor are all very powerful and useful, except for the hood, which fortifies illusion. So instead, we will be using the Dragon Priest mask, Volsung, as the color perfectly matches the armor, and the enchantments are beneficial for virtually every character. You could go with the Remnant hood as well to fit the whole set, but I wanted the Windwalker to look far more unique. You could also go with a regular Adept hood, but keep in mind that if you wear a hood instead of a helmet, some of the light armor perks are rendered void, as you will need to wear all light armor for those perks to work. The amulet you will be using is either the Galder amulet, which fortifies health, magicka, and stamina by 30 points, or the Locket of St. Jib, which fortifies stamina and carry weight by 50 points. The Locket of St. Jib will likely be much harder to acquire, so the Galder amulet is a good alternative, especially because of how it's much easier to acquire. And finally, the ring you will be using is the Ring of the Wind, which is a rare item you can find while fishing. The fishing update is given for free if you have the special edition, so no purchases should be necessary. This ring supposedly has a 3% chance of being caught, which is not ideal, but when testing this build, I found that if you fish outside of Bronzewater Cave, you have a much higher chance of fishing up rare items regardless of the fishing rod you use. Now, the Ring of the Wind is very suited for this build, not just because of the name, but also because it enhances movement speed by 15%, the only item able to increase speed with the exception of the Ring of Khajiit. This will allow you to close the gap on enemies and move around while sneaking much faster, almost like the wind. And now for the spells and shouts. For spells, we will be using the fabled Whirlwind Cloak that I have mentioned throughout this video. This spell is ultimately the theme of the entire build. When using the Whirlwind Cloak spell, it has a chance of flinging enemies up into the sky that get too close. This spell is so good that you may want to refrain from using it constantly outdoors, as I've had times where enemies on the ground after being flung through the sky get flung again, making it impossible to hit them with my sword. But regardless, the Whirlwind Cloak spell is truly going to allow for endless amounts of fun with this build. For shouts, you will want to use Elemental Fury, Cyclone, and Slow Time. I would recommend using Elemental Fury the most, as it will allow you to swing your weapon much faster, allowing for insane DPS. Cyclone is a very thematic shout for this build because when it is used, it will summon a small tornado, throwing anyone in its path throughout the air and dealing fall damage. Slow Time is also a very useful shout, as it can allow you to flank your enemies mid-combat or even catch arrows mid-air. And now for the playstyle/combat. In combat, the Windwalker will be using his assortment of wind shouts and the Whirlwind Cloak to sow absolute chaos amongst his enemies, all the while slicing them to pieces. Sneak should also be used to get the drop on one or two of your foes, but try not to rely too much on Sneak, as the primary goal is to fight like the winds of Kinnereth. And that's all I wrote. a wind-themed warrior build that relies on the underrated wind magics and shouts to create one of the most fun and powerful warriors I think I have ever created. I hope you enjoy this build as much as I have. So with all that being said, make sure to like the like button, like the subscribe button, and like the bell notification down below to be updated on future videos. And I will see you whenever the fuck I decide to upload again. House Telvanni be with you.
Please, O hero of Skyrim, I shall be ever so grateful.